You are free to have sex. You are free to have sex. Once y'all are consenting adults, people agreeing that this is what they want to do, right? Consenting adults, you're free to have sex. People could judge you. People could say whatever they want to say about you, but you're consenting adults who are agreeing to have sex. But there's a difference between having sex, something that, you know, might last a week. You hook up with somebody for a week. Maybe it's one time. Maybe it's 2 months, 3 months, 6 months, whatever the case is. However long it lasts, consenting adults agreeing to have sex. But there's a difference between sex and having sex with someone and having a child with someone. There's a complete difference, right? And so a lot of times there are two ways that you could turn a hookup into a lifelong situation. There may be more than two, but I'm going to point out two obvious ways where you could turn a hookup situation, something that was not supposed to go beyond tonight. Maybe I'll see you two more nights. And maybe I'll see you once a week for the next 3 months or 6 months, or maybe sometimes it drags on for a year. Who knows? Consenting adults agreeing to have sex until they don't want to have sex anymore. But then there's a difference with, are you just having sex with this person, or are you want to have a child with this person? Are you ready to co-parent with this person? That's completely different. And a lot of times people mess up their lives because they turn a hookup into a parenting situation. Now, I know what some people are going to say. Now, let me just go ahead and address it one time. A child is a blessing. A child is a blessing. A child is a blessing, and then once the child is here, the grandparents are going to love the child, or you're going to love your child, and the child is and you never know who that child becomes in life. You never know what that child grows up to become. So the child is a blessing. I'm not knocking the child. And I don't think anyone who would address this particular situation is necessarily saying they're attacking the child. And look, we also know that things can happen. People could be having sex with someone, and it might be a hookup situation that's going on for a while. Maybe it's one night, stuff happens, somebody gets pregnant. Things can happen. Things can happen. And that person decides, you know what? They're going to keep their child because, again, you don't know who the child can become, right? So this person is going to keep their child, right? Not advocating for anything on either side of that. Just saying, hey, stuff happens sometimes. Not avoidtive, not to, talk about things in such a way as not to be cognizant of the fact that things do happen in life. Sometimes you don't plan for things and things happen. But it is why we should also take into consideration, though, there's a difference between, because on the other spectrum of it, on the other side of it, you see a lot of people who ended up in situations where they regret having kids. Not that they didn't want kids, but they regret having kids with the person that they now have kids with. They absolutely regret. So they love their child, and nobody's not, and I need to make that really clear. Nobody's saying that mistakes don't happen, accidents don't happen. Nobody's saying that you're not going to love your child, but there are people. If we're being honest, if we are being honest, there are people who hate the fact that not that they have kids, but that they have kids with this particular person. And so what happened now is they turn a hookup situation into a long-term life situation because they have a child with this person. Now they got to deal with this person day in, day out. How many times have you heard women say, let's be honest, how many times have you heard women say, I love my child. I love my child. It's not about my child. A lot of times they preface what they're about to say with that because they don't want people to think they don't love their kid, right? but I can't stand this. You fill in the blank. But I can't stand this, so and so. How many times have you seen situations, and men end up in this situation too? Don't get me wrong. There's some men who are left with the child, who are left to take care of their child because the other person dipped. The other person didn't want no kids, and the other person just dipped out. They weren't ready for kids. And a lot of times you see men who are also left in that situation where they have to be the caregiver, the primary caregiver for the child, because the other person is just a participant. They're not a parent, they're simply a participant. And then you see it more often with women who find themselves in a situation where, hey, they like this person, they had sex with this person. They won't plan to have kids with this person because they really didn't know the character of this person. Again, you'll hear them preface it. It's not my child. I love my child. But they didn't know the character of this person. They did not know the character of the person. And had they known the character of the person, they probably would never have had a child with them. And so now you have a situation where you are having to deal with someone that you only had intended to sleep with maybe for a couple times or whatever, or maybe you slept with them one time, but now you're having to deal with this person religiously for the next 18 plus years. That's one situation. The other thing is sometimes you find yourself now, you're moving on from the parenting situation, you find yourself now with, if you're not careful, somebody giving you some sort of disease. Some of them are lifelong disease. Some of them are lifelong disease. And that's why we also got to be careful of, look, I'm not talking you'll be perfect. Many people probably hooked up in their lives. It's not about being perfect or whatever the case is, that sort of stuff. None of us are perfect. But I think as we get older, I don't know if we're supposed to get wiser. Maybe we're supposed to get wiser. But you don't want to put yourself in a position sometimes to, again, accidents can happen where people are, all of a sudden now you have some kind of STD or whatever the case is because of XYZ, what you've done. Look, this is a difficult topic sometimes for people to address. And sometimes some of us are just careless. Let's just be honest. Sometimes some of us are careless. There's no protection that we take into consideration when it comes to having sex. Sometimes we don't really even care who it is. Once we have an opportunity, we have sex with them, and then we don't even use protection with them, even though we don't know the person. Now, it doesn't mean that you could think you're in a loving, caring relationship, and somebody out there cheating on you and bring home a disease. You could think you're in a loving, caring relationship, and you ain't got to be using protection at all, and that person goes out there, does whatever they're doing, catch some disease, and they bring it back home to you. So it could happen in a 5-year, 4-year, 10-year relationship. It could happen if you just hanging out with somebody and hooking up with somebody over 2-3 months. I'm well aware of that. But to the extent that we are able to make certain decisions in our lives, we got to think ahead. We got to be careful who we sleep with without protection, who we decide to have a child with, because you got to deal with this person for the next X amount of years or the rest of your life. I hope I'm making sense. Yes, things do happen, but a lot of times, a lot of us put ourselves in the situations that we're in and cause a lot of drama and bring a lot of drama to our own lives. Ultimately, we got choices to make, the decisions we got to make, and there are consequences to every single decision that we make. Consequences to every decision that we make. So, I don't know. What are your thoughts? What do you think? Uh, what do you think? What do you think? Let me hear your thoughts. Leave them in the comments, right? If you're new to the channel, don't forget to subscribe. Don't forget to like. Journey to 5,000. Channel is starting to grow, which is beautiful. Welcome on board. Check out the rest of the content. Don't forget to share and like the videos. Certainly does help the channel grow, right? So be good. Have a great day. Have a great week, depending on whenever you're looking at this video. And until next time, peace.